right, so today we are going to get started on a project that's kind of exciting. We're going to be tanning some rabbit furs. All right, so today we are undertaking a real fun project. We're going to be tanning some of our rabbit furs. Now, about 2 weeks ago, I guess, we butchered the last of our 2021 rabbits for the freezer, and we saved the furs, and we'll link that video above somewhere here in case you want to go and check that out. But this is kind of a new experience for us because we're going to be using a bit of a different method than we've tried before. Previously, we have tanned using the egg tanning method. We had one great success, then we had one partial success, and then after that, it was disaster after disaster. So this time, we're going for the chemical method, which we've done a lot of reading on, and it seems to be kind of unanimous across the board that it's a lot easier and works better, and there's so many perks. So we're going to be using aluminum sulfate and tanning these. But first we're going to take you through a few of the steps that we're going to start with.
So here are the skins. Now we took these off, and this is maybe not ideal, but they've been frozen since we took them off because the weather's just cooperated for that. So today what we're actually going to do, we have this row and then we have this row here. And as I say, this is not necessarily the most ideal way to store these, but it's what we did.
And our plan is to make the most of it.
Yeah, we're going to try to make the most of this. So what we're going to do first is see if we can get some of the fat off these. Like this one here, you can see there's quite a big patch here of fat. Now we're not fleshing them out yet. That'll be after we do the first tanning solution. But we're going to see if we can get some of those big gobs of fat off as best we can anyways. Now one thing I'll show here too is this one here. This isn't a bad area. What this black is an area where there was blood flow to the fur, the hair follicles. This rabbit was growing some hair in. So this area is really not all that worthwhile. Tanning, it's not going to work well because what will happen, it likely, is the hair will slip, not because it's gone rotten, but just because the follicles aren't sort of well rooted in the hair yet. So we're still going to tan this particular pelt because the back, which is sort of some of the nicer fur anyways, is in decent shape. But I just wanted to show that because this was a good example of what that can look like. So, nice part about this is because they're partially frozen, these pieces of fat are coming off pretty easily for the most part. We were actually talking, we're going to turn this into suet for the birds, put it in the suet feeder.
Yeah, you can see on the table here quite a bit pieces coming off. But these don't have to get perfect at this stage, it's just kind of getting off the more bulky stuff.
Yeah, exactly, to lessen the amount we've got to get later.
Oh, this one here, this has gone bad too.
No, it's not really bad, it's just that same thing of the, you can actually kind of, if you look real close, you can see the end of the hair follicles. When the hair is growing, that area that's looks black on the inside of the skin is just had blood flow to grow the hair. So these little patches won't be good, but then you see like this is all quite fine. Actually, this rabbit's got a few sections that
oh, there we've got some more where the hair was.
Yeah, but we'll still get something usable out of this. If you had a pelt that was kind of really covered with this is the back, of course. If it had a lot of this, you probably wouldn't bother going through the tanning process because it's just not going to tan well. So, all the little fat and skin bits. This is, of course, pre-tanned at all, because you wouldn't be feeding it, but we're just going to stuff it in the suet feeder with the rest of it. And then there really isn't any waste. We actually already had nuthatch after it. So here we are. We've got four skins we brought in. We I've picked quite a bit of stuff off. As you can see, the cats are really interested in this. But you can see we've picked the big chunks of fat that we can get off. There's obviously some fleshing left to do, but there's usually quite a bit down here. We've got that off. Quite a bit around the front legs, and then there's usually some on the back, around the shoulders. So, and we've got a little bit of the skin off as well. So the next step is to get these into the bucket before the cats decide to make toys of them, and get the process started.
So Chris just showed you kind of the state of the rabbits at this point in time. It'll be interesting to see how this works out because as you can see, they've really dried out. So I'm assuming that they're going to rehydrate. At least that's what we're going to bank on here. So first thing we've done is we've gotten our bucket ready to go. Now, we're just using a normal 5-gallon bucket from any department store. That's all you need. These are food grade, so I suppose that helps. But we've got 8 liters in the bucket. And next we're going to add 1 cup of coarse salt. You want it to be non-iodized salt. You could probably use pickling salt, although that's a little bit more expensive. I'm using a coarse sea salt, Mediterranean sea salts. And then we're going to add our aluminum sulfate. And again, that is 1 cup of that. So we're going to put the salt in, stir that around, and kind of go from there. Like I say, this is a first time for us, so we're taking you guys along for the ride. But big important thing, make sure you have gloves. And you want to be very careful when you're working with aluminum sulfate because it can cause major skin irritations. Also very bad, as you know, we have a lot of cats. We have to be very careful with this. We don't want any cats consuming this water. So we're going to talk about that a bit later. So there is our 8 liters of room temperature water. Next we have our 1 cup coarse sea salt, which you're going to put in there. We're going to stir that around. Another thing I don't know how important it is, but it did say to use a wooden spoon or wooden stick, so I assume because it's an acid, it probably would have an effect on metal products. But I'm just going to kind of give it a bit of a swirl. So that was our coarse salt in, and here is our aluminum sulfate. Now we just bought this actually at our local feed store. They have kind of a garden section. And other places you can get it, Canadian Tire, Home Depot, that sort of thing. We were actually surprised it wasn't that difficult to find. And wasn't that expensive, really. 1 bag would probably do you for maybe, what, 14, 16 hides?
Well, we're going to find out.
So, it's kind of gone murky. I'm talking weird because I have my shirt over my face. All right, next step, we're going to put our first hide in there. So we're going to just put it in. And you want to basically submerge it, use your spoon, and swish it around. You want to make sure it all gets wet on both sides. This will be interesting with the how dry they are. They don't just kind of, what's the word?
Stay submerged. They will.
Yeah, they float.
We'll probably have to check this periodically.
Yeah, you need to stir this twice a day, so we'll be able to check. If they keep floating, we'll weight them down. I think we're probably going to have to weight them down, to be honest, with something. So there's the first one.
Well, we'll get these all in and then come back.
So that's basically it. We have our 4 pelts in the water. Now they did float to the top, so you can see our kind of redneck attempt here for keeping them below the solution. We just used an old silicone pie plate and 2 containers of water. So basically at this point, you're going to let this sit in the solution for 48 hours. You want to stir it twice every day so that it gets, you know, you're making sure that the solution is mixed right in, especially on the inside where the fur is. You need it to be completely saturated throughout this time. They kind of call it pickling from what I gather. So one thing that we're going to do is everything that we're using for tanning for this project, we are going to keep that separate, and that is now only for that. We had a little trouble kind of finding the definites on that, but for safety purposes, I would probably suggest if you start this, I would allocate everything that we use. For example, like that silicone pie plate, that's just something now that is going to be the weight on our furs when we tan. So same thing with those jars, things like that. Glass product you can definitely clean, but we're just going to keep it all allocated for this project. We're now going to let this sit. We're going to come back to it in 48 hours. We will bring you back and we'll start on the next step.